Have you ever picked up your phone for just a moment, just to check one notification, and somehow an entire hour disappeared? Have you ever opened a book that you genuinely wanted to read, read the same page 3 times, and still couldn't remember what it said? Have you ever walked into a room only to completely forget why you went there in the first place? If any of that sounds familiar, then what you're about to hear may explain more about your life than you realize. Welcome to Book Bite, the place where powerful books become life-changing ideas. Today we're diving into a book that asks a question so important, so uncomfortable, and so relevant to modern life that once you hear it, you may never look at your phone, your work, or even your own mind the same way again. Part 1. The day we realized something was missing. The question is simple. Who stole your focus? Because something strange is happening all around us. People who once loved reading can barely finish a chapter. Students sit down to study and find themselves scrolling social media 20 minutes later. Professionals open their laptops to complete one important task, only to end up checking emails, messages, headlines, and notifications before they even begin. It's happening everywhere, and yet most of us blame ourselves. We tell ourselves we're lazy. We tell ourselves we lack discipline. We tell ourselves we need better habits. But what if that's not the real problem? What if the reason you struggle to focus isn't because you're weak, but because you're fighting against forces specifically designed to break your concentration? That possibility sounds dramatic, almost like a conspiracy. But that's exactly the question journalist Johann Hari decided to investigate. And the deeper he looked, the more disturbing the answers became. Years ago, Hari noticed a change in himself. He had always loved reading. Books were not just entertainment, they were how he learned, how he thought, how he understood the world. But suddenly, something felt different. He could still sit down with a book. He could still start reading. But after a few minutes, his attention drifted away. A random thought appeared, then the urge to check his phone, then another distraction, then another. Before long, he wasn't really reading anymore. His eyes were moving across the page, but his mind was somewhere else entirely. At first, he assumed the problem was personal. Maybe he was getting older. Maybe he was becoming lazy. Maybe he simply needed more discipline. But then he started talking to other people. Friends, colleagues, students, parents, business owners, and nearly everyone described the same experience. People felt distracted all the time. They struggled to stay focused. They found it harder to concentrate than they could years before. And that's when Hari realized something important. This wasn't happening to one person. This wasn't happening to a small group. This was happening to millions, maybe even billions. So he began a journey that would take him across multiple countries. He interviewed neuroscientists, psychologists, technology experts, researchers, educators, people who had spent decades studying how human attention works, and what they revealed shocked him. Because the problem wasn't just social media. It wasn't just smartphones. It wasn't even just technology. The truth was much bigger. Our attention was being attacked from multiple directions at the same time. Imagine your attention as a beam of light. When focused, that beam becomes powerful. It allows you to learn, to create, to solve problems, to build skills, to achieve meaningful goals. But what happens when that beam gets scattered into hundreds of tiny pieces? The power disappears. And that's exactly what's happening in modern life. Every notification pulls the beam away. Every breaking news alert pulls the beam away. Every email, every message, every advertisement, every recommendation, every endless feed. Another tiny piece of your attention gets pulled in a different direction. The frightening part is that this isn't an accident. Many of the world's largest companies make money by capturing and holding your attention. Your focus is valuable, extremely valuable. In fact, some of the richest corporations in history are built on a simple business model. Keep people looking longer, keep people clicking longer, keep people scrolling longer, because every extra second can generate more profit. Think about that for a moment. Some of the smartest engineers, the smartest designers, the smartest psychologists, and the smartest marketers on earth are competing for one thing. Not your money, not your possessions, your attention. Because attention comes first. And once someone controls your attention, they can influence almost everything else. What you buy, what you believe, what you fear, what you desire, what you remember, and ultimately, who you become. But as Hari continued his investigation, he discovered something even more alarming. Technology wasn't the only force stealing focus. Poor sleep was playing a role. Chronic stress was playing a role. Modern work culture was playing a role. Education systems were playing a role. Even environmental factors were affecting our ability to think clearly. The more evidence he gathered, the clearer the picture became. We are living through one of the largest attention crises in human history, and most people don't even realize it's happening. Because attention isn't stolen all at once. It disappears gradually, one interruption at a time, one notification at a time, one distraction at a time, until one day you suddenly realize something feels different. You struggle to read deeply, you struggle to think deeply, you struggle to stay present, and you begin wondering what happened. Where did your focus go? Where did your concentration go? Where did your ability to fully immerse yourself in something meaningful go? Fortunately, Hari discovered something hopeful. If attention can be stolen, it can also be reclaimed. But before we learn how to get it back, we need to identify the people, systems, and technologies benefiting from our distraction. Because in the next part, we're going to uncover a hidden war worth billions of dollars. A war that most people participate in every single day without realizing it. A war where the prize isn't money. The prize is your mind. And once you see how it works, you'll never look at your phone the same way again.
Part 2. The billion-dollar war for your mind. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning and discovering that every company on Earth suddenly wanted the exact same thing from you. Not your money. Not your car, not your house, not even your time. They wanted something much more valuable, your attention. Because in today's world, attention has become the most valuable currency on the planet. And whether you realize it or not, every single day, thousands of companies are competing for it. Think about the first 10 minutes after you wake up. Before you've even brushed your teeth, your attention is already being hunted. A notification appears. A text message arrives. A social media app shows a red badge. An email lands in your inbox. A news alert announces breaking information. A video recommendation appears. A friend shares a post. A shopping app offers a discount. Each one seems harmless. Each one asks for only a few seconds. But together, they're part of something much larger, a global competition for your mind. Most people believe technology companies sell products. But Johann Hari discovered that many of them are actually selling something else, your attention. Think about it. When you use a social media platform for free, you are not the customer. You are the product. Your attention is what advertisers are paying for. The longer you stay on a platform, the more advertisements you see. The more data gets collected, the more profit gets generated, which creates a powerful incentive. Keep people engaged for as long as possible. And that's where things become interesting. Because the world's biggest technology companies didn't accidentally become successful. They hired neuroscientists, behavioral psychologists, user experience experts, data scientists, entire teams whose job is to answer one question: how do we keep people coming back? Not once, not twice, but hundreds of times every day. And the answers they discovered changed the world. Take infinite scrolling. Years ago, websites naturally ended. You reached the bottom of a page. You stopped reading. You moved on. Your brain received a signal that said, "We're done here." But then something changed. Platforms introduced endless feeds. Now there is no ending, no stopping point, no natural moment to leave. You scroll, and scroll, and scroll, and somehow 30 minutes disappear, then 60, then 90, without you ever consciously deciding to stay. But infinite scroll is only the beginning. Let's talk about notifications. Have you ever noticed how difficult it is to ignore that tiny red number on your screen? Even when you're trying to focus? Even when you're busy? Even when you know it probably isn't important? That's not an accident. Human beings evolved to pay attention to sudden changes in their environment. Thousands of years ago, ignoring unexpected signals could be dangerous. A sound in the bushes might mean a predator. Today, that same survival system gets activated by a notification badge, a vibration, a pop-up, a sound. Your brain reacts automatically. The result? Your attention gets interrupted again and again. And every interruption comes with a hidden cost. Researchers discovered something surprising. When your focus is broken, your brain doesn't instantly recover. Even after the interruption ends, part of your attention remains stuck on what distracted you, which means every notification steals more than a few seconds. It steals momentum. It steals mental energy, And over time, it trains your brain to expect constant interruption. But perhaps the most powerful weapon in this attention war is something called variable rewards. And once you understand this concept, you'll start seeing it everywhere. Imagine a slot machine in a casino. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. The unpredictability keeps people pulling the lever again and again, because maybe the next attempt will be rewarding. Social media platforms operate in a surprisingly similar way. Every time you refresh your feed, you don't know what you'll find. Maybe nothing interesting. Maybe a funny video. Maybe exciting news. Maybe a message from someone important. Maybe hundreds of likes. Maybe something shocking. Your brain becomes curious, and curiosity keeps you checking. Again, and again, and again. The reward isn't guaranteed. That's exactly why it works. The uncertainty itself becomes addictive. And before you know it, checking your phone stops being a conscious decision. It becomes a reflex, a habit, an automatic behavior, something you do without thinking. Johann Hari realized something deeply unsettling during his research. The attention economy doesn't need people to become addicted forever. It only needs millions of tiny interruptions. Because every interruption weakens your ability to think deeply. Every interruption fragments concentration. Every interruption trains the brain to seek stimulation. And eventually, silence starts feeling uncomfortable. Boredom starts feeling unbearable. Stillness starts feeling impossible, which creates a dangerous cycle. The less attention we have, the more we seek quick stimulation. The more stimulation we consume, the weaker our attention becomes. And the cycle continues. But here's the twist. Technology companies aren't the only reason focus is disappearing. Even if every social media platform vanished tomorrow, we would still face another major threat. A threat hiding inside our daily routines, inside our workplaces, inside our study habits, inside the way we try to get things done. Because the next force stealing our attention is something most people proudly brag about, something society often celebrates, something many people believe makes them more productive. But research shows it may actually be making them less intelligent. It's called multitasking. And in the next part, we're going to uncover why one of the most common habits in modern life may be silently destroying your ability to think deeply.
Part 3. The biggest productivity lie ever told. Imagine a pilot flying an airplane. While controlling the aircraft, he starts replying to text messages. Halfway through, he switches to checking emails. A few seconds later, he begins watching a video, then returns to flying. The idea sounds ridiculous, dangerous even, yet millions of people do something surprisingly similar every single day, not in airplanes, but in their own minds. We call it multitasking. And for years, society has treated multitasking like a superpower. Job descriptions praise it, employers demand it, students are expected to master it, and many people proudly describe themselves as excellent multitaskers. But according to Johann Hari's research, multitasking may be one of the biggest productivity lies ever created. To understand why, let's start with a simple question. Have you ever tried studying while checking messages? Or writing an important document while watching videos? Or attending a meeting while scrolling through social media? Most people assume they're doing multiple things at once, but neuroscientists discovered something surprising. The human brain doesn't actually multitask, at least not in the way most people think. Instead, the brain rapidly switches between tasks, back and forth, again and again. Imagine a spotlight on a dark stage. The spotlight can only illuminate one performer at a time. To see someone else, it must move. Your attention works in a similar way. Every time you switch from one task to another, the spotlight moves, and every movement comes with a cost. The problem is that these costs are often invisible. You don't notice them. You simply feel tired, distracted, mentally exhausted, without understanding why. Researchers studying attention found that after an interruption, part of your brain continues thinking about the previous task, even while you're attempting to focus on the new one. It's like carrying unfinished conversations in your head all day long. A little piece of attention stays behind each time you switch, and by evening, your mental energy is scattered everywhere. Think about a student preparing for an exam. They open their textbook, read for 2 minutes, then check a notification, return to studying, then answer a message, then watch a short video, then go back to the textbook. From the outside, it looks like they're studying for hours, but in reality, their brain never stays in one place long enough to build deep understanding.
They're constantly restarting, and every restart consumes energy. Johann Hari discovered that one of the greatest casualties of constant task switching is something called deep work. Deep work happens when your mind becomes fully immersed in a difficult challenge. It's the state where writers create great books, scientists make breakthroughs, artists create masterpieces, programmers solve complex problems, athletes perform at their highest level. But deep work requires uninterrupted concentration, and modern life seems designed to prevent it. Every notification becomes an exit door. Every interruption pulls you back to the surface, before your mind can dive deeper. Imagine digging a well. You dig 3 feet, then stop, move somewhere else, dig 2 feet, then stop again, move again, dig another foot. At the end of the day, you've worked hard, you're exhausted, but you still don't have water. That's exactly how many people spend their lives, busy all day, productive all day, yet accomplishing far less than they could, because they're constantly switching locations instead of digging deeper. Hari came across research showing that frequent interruptions don't just reduce productivity, they can temporarily reduce cognitive performance. In some situations, the decline in performance was comparable to losing an entire night's sleep. Think about that. The habit society praises as efficient may actually be making people less effective. And here's where things become even more concerning. Modern technology has transformed task switching into a lifestyle. Years ago, interruptions were occasional. Today, they're constant. A person may receive dozens, sometimes hundreds, of digital interruptions every day. Messages, emails, updates, alerts, recommendations, reminders, breaking news. Each one appears small, but together they create something powerful, a fragmented mind, a mind trained to jump rather than stay, to skim rather than explore, to react rather than think. Johann Hari realized that many people are no longer losing focus because they lack discipline. They're losing focus because they've unknowingly trained their brains to expect interruption. Their minds have adapted to a world where concentration rarely lasts more than a few minutes. And adaptation is powerful. The brain becomes better at whatever it practices. Practice distraction long enough, and distraction becomes your default state. But here's the fascinating part. The opposite is also true. Practice deep focus, and concentration grows stronger, like a muscle recovering after years of neglect. However, before we learn how to rebuild that muscle, we need to examine another hidden force that's quietly damaging attention. A force most people underestimate. A force that begins the moment they close their eyes at night. Because what if one of the biggest reasons you're struggling to focus today actually started while you were sleeping? Or more accurately, while you weren't? In the next part, we'll uncover the silent attack happening inside the brain through sleep deprivation, chronic stress, and the constant pressure of modern life. And what you'll discover may completely change the way you think about focus forever.
Part 4. The silent attack happening inside your brain. Imagine waking up tomorrow with a brand new smartphone, the fastest processor, the best battery, the most advanced technology available. Now imagine running dozens of heavy applications all day, never charging it properly, never closing background processes, never allowing it to cool down. Sooner or later, even the most powerful device would begin slowing down, not because it was defective, not because it was poorly designed, but because it was being pushed beyond its limits. According to Johann Hari, something very similar is happening to the human brain. Millions of people are walking around convinced they've become lazy, unmotivated, undisciplined, when in reality, their brains are simply exhausted. And the most dangerous part, most people don't even realize it, because the attack isn't visible. It doesn't arrive as a notification. It doesn't appear on a screen. Instead, it slowly happens inside your body every single day. Let's start with sleep. For most of human history, sleep was treated as essential. Today, it's often treated like an obstacle. People proudly say things like, "I only slept 4 hours. I'll sleep when I'm successful. I can function without rest." But science tells a very different story. Imagine trying to drive a car through thick fog. The road is still there, but everything becomes harder to see. That's what sleep deprivation does to your mind. Your brain can still function, but not at its full capacity. Memory becomes weaker, decision-making becomes slower, concentration becomes harder, learning becomes more difficult, and attention begins to fall apart. Johann Hari discovered that sleep isn't simply rest, it's maintenance. While you're asleep, your brain is actively working, organizing memories, processing information, removing waste products, strengthening learning pathways, preparing you for the next day. When sleep is reduced, that entire system starts breaking down. And modern life is making the problem worse. People stay awake longer, work later, scroll endlessly before bed, sleep beside glowing screens, wake up tired, then repeat the cycle, day after day, week after week, year after year. But sleep isn't the only problem. There is another invisible force attacking attention: stress. Now, stress itself isn't necessarily bad. Thousands of years ago, stress helped humans survive. If a predator appeared, the body instantly shifted into survival mode. Heart rate increased, focus narrowed, energy surged. The system worked beautifully for short-term danger. The problem is that modern stress never truly ends. Instead of occasional threats, people face constant pressure. Bills, deadlines, exams, career uncertainty, social comparison, financial worries, family responsibilities. The brain begins treating everyday life like an emergency. And when the brain believes it's under constant threat, something important happens. Deep thinking becomes less important than survival. Imagine trying to read a book while a fire alarm is ringing nearby. Could you focus? Probably not. Your brain would prioritize the alarm. Stress creates a similar effect internally. Even when no immediate danger exists, part of your mind remains occupied by worry, which means less attention is available for learning, creating, reading, or concentrating. Hari interviewed researchers who explained that chronic stress essentially hijacks mental resources. The brain keeps scanning for problems, scanning for threats, scanning for danger, leaving less energy available for focus. And then comes a third problem: information overload. Never before in human history have people consumed so much information. Think about it. Within a single day, the average person may encounter breaking news, social media updates, emails, videos, messages, podcasts, advertisements, articles, comments, opinions, recommendations, thousands of pieces of information, every single day. The brain evolved for a very different environment. Our ancestors didn't process information from thousands of people daily. They processed information from small communities, small groups, simple environments. Now the brain is being flooded from every direction. The result? Mental fatigue. Not because people are thinking too deeply, but because they're trying to process too much. Imagine pouring water into a glass. A little water is useful, but eventually the glass overflows. Modern life often keeps pouring information long after our mental capacity has been reached. And that's when attention starts collapsing. But perhaps the most frightening discovery Johann Hari encountered was this. Many people mistake exhaustion for personal failure. They assume something is wrong with them, when in reality, their brains are reacting normally to abnormal conditions. Lack of sleep, constant stress, endless information, continuous pressure. No machine could perform perfectly under those circumstances. No brain can either. Which means the question isn't, why can't I focus? The better question is, how am I expected to focus under conditions that constantly destroy focus? And yet, despite all these challenges, there is still another group suffering even more from the attention crisis: children. A generation growing up in a world more distracting than any environment humans have ever experienced before. What happens when a developing brain is exposed to constant stimulation from the very beginning? What happens when boredom disappears? What happens when deep concentration never has a chance to develop? In the next part, we'll uncover why children around the world are struggling to focus like never before, and why the consequences may shape the future of an entire generation.
Part 5. The first generation that never got to be bored. Imagine taking a child from the year 1995 and bringing them into the modern world. Within a single day, they would encounter more stimulation than they once experienced in an entire week. Videos would automatically play. Notifications would constantly appear. Games would provide instant rewards. Algorithms would learn exactly what captures their attention. And entertainment would be available every second of every day. To that child, the modern world would feel like a giant machine designed to eliminate boredom forever. At first, that sounds amazing. After all, who likes being bored? But Johann Hari discovered something surprising during his investigation. Boredom may actually be one of the most important experiences for a developing brain, and modern childhood is slowly losing it. For generations, boredom was unavoidable. Children waited in long lines, sat through quiet afternoons, stared out car windows, played outside with no specific plan, invented games, made up stories, explored their imagination. When nothing was happening, the brain learned how to create something. Creativity often emerged from boredom. Problem-solving emerged from boredom. Independent thinking emerged from boredom. But today's children rarely experience true boredom. The moment silence appears, a screen fills the gap. The moment waiting begins, a video starts playing. The moment discomfort arrives, entertainment becomes available instantly. As a result, something important may be disappearing: the ability to sit quietly with one's own thoughts. And that ability is more valuable than most people realize. Think about some of humanity's greatest ideas: scientific discoveries, creative breakthroughs, business innovations, artistic masterpieces. Many didn't appear during moments of constant stimulation. They appeared during moments of reflection, moments of wandering thought, moments when the mind had space to explore. But what happens when that space disappears? Hari encountered researchers who worried that children are growing up in environments where attention is constantly being pulled outward, towards screens, towards alerts, towards endless streams of content, instead of inward, towards curiosity, towards imagination, towards deep thinking. And technology is only one part of the story. Modern education systems may also be contributing to the problem. Imagine being a child today. From an early age, you're taught that success means passing tests, meeting targets, memorizing information, producing measurable results. Every hour becomes scheduled, every activity becomes structured, every outcome becomes evaluated. In many schools, there is less room for exploration, less room for curiosity, less room for asking questions that don't appear on exams. Johann Hari discovered that attention doesn't grow strongest when people are forced to focus. Attention grows strongest when people care deeply about what they're exploring. Curiosity creates concentration, interest creates engagement, meaning creates focus. Yet many children spend years moving from assignment to assignment without ever discovering what truly fascinates them. And when learning feels disconnected from curiosity, attention naturally suffers. Then there is another factor many parents are beginning to notice. The attention environment surrounding children has changed dramatically. A child today doesn't simply compete with a textbook for attention. They compete against entire industries, teams of engineers, designers, behavioral psychologists, artificial intelligence systems, all working to create content that is more exciting, more stimulating, and more addictive than anything else. Imagine being a teacher trying to explain mathematics. Then imagine competing against an algorithm specifically designed to maximize engagement. It's not a fair fight. One is teaching, the other is optimizing attention capture. And that's why many educators report seeing a troubling pattern. Students increasingly struggle with sustained concentration. Long reading sessions feel difficult. Deep thinking feels uncomfortable. Complex problems feel frustrating. Not because children are less intelligent, but because they're growing up in environments that reward constant stimulation. The brain adapts to whatever environment it experiences most often. If the environment constantly changes, attention learns to jump. If the environment constantly stimulates, patience becomes harder. If the environment constantly rewards instant gratification, long-term focus becomes more difficult. And here's what makes this especially important. The brains of children are still developing, which means the habits formed early can shape attention for years to come. But Johann Hari doesn't believe the situation is hopeless. Far from it. Children remain incredibly adaptable. The human brain remains incredibly adaptable. The challenge isn't that attention is disappearing forever. The challenge is creating environments where attention can grow again. Environments that encourage curiosity, reflection, creativity, exploration, and most importantly, deep engagement. Because attention isn't just about productivity. It's about experiencing life fully. It's about being present enough to learn deeply, love deeply, think deeply, and become fully absorbed in something meaningful. But as Hari continued his investigation, he uncovered another troubling discovery. The attention crisis isn't only affecting children, it's changing adults too, especially in one area that shaped human civilization for centuries. Reading, the simple act of sitting down with a book, following a complex idea, and staying with it long enough for it to transform the way you think. Why are fewer people able to do that today? Why is deep reading disappearing? And what does that mean for creativity, intelligence, and the future of human thought? In the next part, we'll enter the lost world of deep thinking and discover why one of humanity's greatest mental abilities may be quietly slipping away.
Part 6. The Lost World of Deep Thinking. Imagine walking into one of the world's greatest libraries. Millions of books, thousands of years of knowledge, the greatest ideas ever discovered, the most brilliant minds in history waiting to teach you something. Now, imagine standing in the middle of that library and being physically unable to focus long enough to read even 10 pages. That may sound absurd, but Johann Hari believes something very similar is happening across modern society. For centuries, one of humanity's greatest strengths was its ability to think deeply, to follow a difficult idea, to wrestle with a complex problem, to stay with a question long enough to uncover something meaningful. Today, that ability is quietly fading, and most people don't even notice it's happening, because the change didn't happen overnight. It happened gradually, one notification at a time, one short video at a time, one interruption at a time, until eventually many people found themselves struggling to do something that once felt natural. Read, not skim, not scroll, not glance. Read. Deep reading is different from almost every other form of information consumption. When you watch a short video, information comes to you. When you scroll social media, information comes to you. When you read deeply, you must go to the information. You must actively build understanding, sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph, idea by idea. And that's where the problem begins, because deep reading demands something modern life rarely encourages: patience. Think about what happens when you start reading a challenging book. At first, your mind resists. You feel restless. Your attention wanders. You think about your phone. You remember unfinished tasks. Random thoughts appear. The experience feels uncomfortable. Most people assume something is wrong, but according to researchers Johann Hari interviewed, this discomfort is often the doorway to deeper thinking. Your brain is adjusting, settling down, learning to stay in one place. The problem is that many people never stay long enough to reach the other side. They leave before concentration has a chance to develop. Imagine trying to build a campfire. You strike a match, wait 5 seconds, then walk away. Strike another match, wait 5 seconds, walk away again. The fire never has time to grow. Deep thinking works the same way. It requires uninterrupted attention, time, patience, and persistence. But modern technology trains us for the exact opposite: quick rewards, instant answers, endless novelty, constant stimulation. The brain slowly adapts. And once it adapts, stillness begins to feel uncomfortable. Complexity begins to feel frustrating. Anything requiring sustained effort feels harder than it once did. Hari discovered something fascinating during his research. The attention crisis isn't just reducing productivity, it's changing how people think. Because deep reading doesn't simply transfer information, it transforms the brain. When you read a complex book, you're forced to follow long chains of reasoning, to understand perspectives different from your own, to imagine situations you've never experienced, to hold multiple ideas in your mind at the same time. In many ways, reading is mental exercise. And just like physical exercise strengthens muscles, deep reading strengthens attention. But reading isn't the only thing we're losing. We're also losing something called flow. Flow is one of the most extraordinary mental states human beings can experience. You may have felt it before, while writing, playing music, drawing, coding, studying, playing sports, or working on something you genuinely loved. It's that strange moment when time seems to disappear. Hours feel like minutes. Your attention becomes effortless. Your mind becomes fully immersed. Nothing else matters. Psychologists have spent decades studying flow, and what they discovered is remarkable. People often report feeling happiest during flow, not while consuming entertainment, not scrolling, not while being distracted, but while being completely absorbed in a meaningful challenge. Think about that. The moments that make life feel most alive often require deep concentration, yet modern life keeps pulling us away from those moments. Before flow can fully develop, a notification appears, a message arrives, a distraction interrupts, and the state disappears. Many people spend years chasing happiness through stimulation, but according to Hari's research, some of the greatest satisfaction in life comes through immersion, through attention, through giving yourself completely to something meaningful. And that brings us to another surprising idea. Maybe boredom isn't the enemy. Maybe boredom is the doorway. For generations, boredom created space for imagination, space for reflection, space for creativity. Some of humanity's greatest ideas emerged during quiet moments, not during stimulation, not during distraction, but during stillness. The problem is that modern life rarely allows stillness anymore. The moment boredom appears, a screen removes it. The moment silence arrives, content fills the gap. The moment reflection begins, distraction interrupts. As a result, people consume more information than ever before, while often thinking less deeply about it. And that may be one of the greatest hidden costs of the attention crisis. Not merely that we're distracted, but that we're losing access to the kinds of thinking that create wisdom, creativity, insight, innovation, and meaning. Yet despite everything Johann Hari discovered, he refused to end his investigation with pessimism. Because while attention can be weakened, it can also be rebuilt. While focus can be stolen, it can also be reclaimed. And that's exactly where we're going next. In the final part of this journey, we'll discover how to take back control of our minds, how to rebuild concentration, how to escape the attention traps of modern life, and how to reclaim one of the most valuable resources we possess, our ability to truly focus.
Before we end, I want you to do something that has become surprisingly rare in today's world. Pause. Not to check your phone, not to open another app, not to see who's messaging you, not to scroll one last time. Just pause. For the next few moments, give your complete attention to this one thought.
Because throughout this entire journey, we've been talking about something that most people never think about until it's already slipping away. Your attention. Not your money, not your possessions, not your status. Your attention. The invisible force that shapes every part of your life. Think about it. Everything you've ever learned started with attention. Every meaningful relationship you've built required attention. Every skill you've mastered required attention. Every dream you've ever chased began with attention. Because attention is where life happens. Whatever receives your attention grows, and whatever is constantly ignored slowly disappears. That's true for your goals, your health, your relationships, your creativity, even your happiness. And that's why Johann Hari's message is so important. This book was never really about phones. It was never really about social media, and it was never simply about productivity. At its core, this book is about reclaiming ownership of your life. Because when you lose control of your attention, you slowly lose control of the direction your life is moving. And the scary part is that it rarely happens all at once. It happens gradually. 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, one distraction, one interruption, one endless scroll, one forgotten intention. Until eventually, weeks become months, months become years, and one day, many people find themselves asking a painful question. Where did all the time go? But maybe an even more important question is this. Where did my attention go? Because time and attention are not the same thing. You can spend an hour doing something, but if your attention isn't there, did you truly experience it? You can sit with family, but be lost inside your phone. You can read a book, but think about notifications. You can chase a dream, but constantly get pulled away by distractions. And before long, life starts feeling fragmented, scattered, disconnected. Not because you lack ability, but because your attention has been divided into 1,000 tiny pieces. Yet here's the hopeful truth Johann Hari discovered. Your attention is not gone. It hasn't been destroyed. It hasn't disappeared forever. It's still there, waiting to be reclaimed. Like a muscle that has weakened from lack of use, it can become strong again. The ability to focus can return. The ability to think deeply can return. The ability to read for hours can return. The ability to become fully absorbed in meaningful work can return. But it begins with a choice, a simple decision, to stop treating your attention like something unlimited and start treating it like the valuable resource it truly is. Because the truth is, your attention is your life. Every day, you are investing it somewhere. The only question is where. Are you investing it into things that help you grow, or things designed to keep you distracted? Are you investing it into your goals, or into endless noise? Are you investing it into experiences you'll remember, or into content you'll forget tomorrow? And maybe that's the most important lesson in this entire book. Not every battle in life is fought with money. Some battles are fought with attention. And whether we realize it or not, we are fighting that battle every single day. So before you leave, I'd like to ask you one final question, a question only you can answer. If your attention is the most valuable asset you own, what has been stealing it from you lately? And more importantly, what is one thing you're ready to take back control of starting today? Maybe it's social media. Maybe it's constant notifications. Maybe it's endless multitasking. Maybe it's giving too much attention to things that don't truly matter. Whatever it is, take a moment and think about it. Because that answer may change the direction of your future. And if this book has taught us anything, it's that small changes in attention create massive changes in life. One focused hour, one distraction-free evening, one meaningful conversation, one chapter read without interruption. Those moments seem small, but over time, they become a different life. Thank you for spending your time with me here on BookBite. In a world where countless companies, algorithms, and distractions are fighting for your attention every second, the fact that you chose to spend part of your day here means more than you know. I genuinely appreciate it. And if this journey helped you see your attention differently, then this time was well spent. Until next time, read deeply, think deeply, question deeply, protect your mind, protect your focus, and most importantly, Don't let the world decide where your attention goes, because wherever your attention goes, your life follows. And the life you're creating starts with what you choose to focus on today.